Alright, so we got new patch notes, and basically almost every single tank has been buffed or nerfed in a particular way. In this video, or in this patch note, we will discover if Brewmaster is finally dead, gutted, 6 feet under, finally the worst tank again, because they were broken for too long, whatever you want to call it. We will figure that out together. Let's get right in. So I will only go over the tank buffs and nerfs, because I don't have any idea on what the DPS and heal specs do, except Resto Druid a little bit. I will only go over the tank ones, which would start with Blood Death Knights, but they are not in these patch notes. They have not been touched whatsoever. They are really good right now. Probably the second or third best tank. Really big damage, really big sustain. It gained a little bit of popularity compared to a few days ago. If you like Blood Death Knight, if you've been playing it, you are safe for now. Nothing happened to you, so you can keep on playing. Demon Hunter got Vengeance buffs, which don't really do that much, honestly. Vengeance has been struggling with sustain, and getting sustain is really nice. 35% increased armor is really nice as an extra, but the main problem of Vengeance Demon Hunter is currently holding aggro / getting aggro in the first place. It is really easy to gain aggro on things like Warrior and Prot Paladin even, but getting threat on Vengeance Demon Hunter is actually a pain in the ass. I've been playing Vengeance for a little bit, doing some +10 keys on my ult, just as a chill, low-key enjoyer, and I have always caught myself struggling to get threat in the first few seconds, especially if you have some special entities in your group that just can't wait to press their buttons. Even without them pressing any buttons, you will need a lot of time to gain aggro responsibly. Most of your threat generators have a lot of cooldown, like Spirit Bomb nowadays. Immolation Aura has a little bit of a cooldown. If you don't time it right, you might just have nothing AoE to pull things. Back then, you could basically spam Spirit Bomb, but now that it's on cooldown, it is a rather difficult spell to gain aggro with. You can use your sigils, which is nice, but your sigils also have a ton of cooldown, all of them, even your damage sigils, so that's not reliable. The only good way to gain threat for now is basically jumping in and using Soul Cleave a few times. Other than that, really difficult to gain threat. I think that's the first thing they should tackle when they are starting to buff Vengeance Demon Hunters. But as I said, 35% armor is nice to have, gives them a little bit more durability in pulls, which they also lack a little bit compared to the other tanks. So all in all, it's an alright buff. But as I said, threat is kind of an issue for Demon Hunters right now. Guardian Druids, this confused me at first. But if you read this, they basically say that single target is too strong a little bit and threat generation is too low, which is true. I think I don't know much about Guardian Druid because, as I said in another video, I find them quite boring to play. But they basically nerfed every single target ability that you use, like Maul, Raise, Ravage, Red Moon, White Guardian and stuff. They nerfed every single target spell, but buff Thrash's direct damage and Thrash bleed damage, which will help Guardian Druids to gather the mobs, keep aggro the first few seconds, and then just stabilize and press the buttons and deal damage. A really good adjustment, but it is all in all a buff, because as a tank, if you can't hold aggro, you're pretty much useless. I would have wished the same buff for Vengeance Demon Hunters. Maybe it will come, maybe with the next season, but if they applied this ideology to Vengeance Demon Hunters, I would have loved that. But all in all, great buff or great adjustment, nothing else to add here. Just putting them in their place, as they've been the second strongest tank this season, and they've also been dealing a lot of single target damage, but have been lacking in the AoE department, so great buff. All right, now moving on to my baby, my Brewmaster. High tolerance refunds 2/4 seconds of purifying brews cooldown when cast at elevated stagger, was 3 to 6 seconds. High tolerance, if you don't know, is this talent right here. Stagger is 4% more effective at delaying damage. Purifying brew refunds 6 seconds of its cooldown if cast at elevated stagger. Elevated stagger means red stagger. This talent has been considered as an alright talent. Some people, me included, have thought about just using only 1 point and then going for 2 points in Anvil and Stave and then putting another one in Heart of the Ox or wherever you want to put it. But having 2 points in Anvil and Stave and Heart of the Ox will pretty much do the same thing as High Tolerance 2 stacks. I've been playing with 2 points in Anvil and Stave and it is going absolutely crazy style. I have perma purifying brews up. I've never been in a situation, honestly, where I didn't have purifying brew up, where I struggled to survive. So I think this nerf does practically nothing. This will just motivate all of the player base, or all of the high key enjoyers, more to move away from this talent. Obviously, the effectiveness on stagger is kind of brutal to lose, but 2% is, honestly, you can't sacrifice 2%. You are already tanky as fuck. You have a lot of self-healing, especially with the Master of Harmony build that is gaining a lot of popularity right now. You should have no problem surviving still. You are still the tankiest and highest damage dealing tank in this game. With this nerf, nothing will change. As I said, if you want to opt out of high tolerance, I would still recommend having 1 point in it just for the stagger effectiveness. Moving over to Anvil and Stave, if you only have 1 point. If you have already 2 points, you probably don't have Heart of the Ox. So I would just do this, and then you're good to go. Honestly, nothing you could do wrong here. And then we have the Zen State stagger effectiveness reduced by 5%. This one kind of hurts more than the other one. Losing 5% of effectiveness, especially when you're low on health, is kind of detrimental. But you rarely are low HP. So if you ever get to a point where you are low HP, you might struggle a bit more. But if you know how to play Brewmaster, and if you're confident and know how to manage your stagger right, you will never drop down to a situation where these 5% will make the difference. It is a nerf, definitely, will make you a little bit squishier, but all in all, I am very, very confident that Brewmaster is still the strongest tank by far. If I could put it in numbers, I would probably say that the average rating on things like Archon would probably drop down by 50 to 100. Still 200 to 300 above every other tank. So you are very strong. There is no worries for you to have. This nerf is basically just like a light hit on your wrists that does practically nothing. A little bit of a nerf, still nothing to worry about if you play Brewmaster. Prot Paladins gained another small buff, which is base armor increased by 10%. Prot Paladins have been struggling to stay alive because they are honestly very, very, very squishy. I might say that red paladins at this point are tankier than prot paladins, but this 10% will help them survive a little bit more, but I don't think it's gonna be enough to bump them up in the rankings. I am still pretty sure that Prot Paladins will stay the worst tank in this game, especially with every other tank basically getting buffed. This doesn't really help Prot Paladins a lot. They will need a little bit more than 10% to be effective in tanking hierarchies. As I said, it is possible, but it is very, very difficult, especially on a Prot Paladin, to stay alive in hierarchies. Because as I said, you are really, 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 really squishy. These 10% are just simply not enough. Good buff though. I mean, it's a free 10% buff. Why would you complain about it? But it is very little. Now, moving on to the last tank, which is the Prot Warrior. Prot Warrior pretty much gains a flat damage buff on every main ability they press, which is Execute damage increased by 20%. Execute has been known to be very weak this season on Prot Warriors, so this is a nice buff. Mountain Thane gets 2 buffs, which currently is the meta hero talent. You don't really play the other one, and Mountain Thane just basically deals the highest damage, although very low, but we'll get into that. Thunderblast damage increased by 30%, which is really nice because Thunderblast is something you constantly press. Honestly, you have it up at all times, I feel like, especially this season. And then Mountain Thane ground current damage increased by 50%, which is this hero talent node, which deals nature damage to enemies near the target AoE ability whenever you press Thunderblast. The ground current damage will also apply to mobs around them, which is, by the way, 50%. I might add, 50% is a lot. You might be thinking, okay, they went crazy style with the Mountain Thane buffs, but honestly, they just readjusted Prot Warriors. Prot Warriors have been known this season to have terrible DPS, like genuinely abysmal, terrible, whatever you want to call it. They are the only tank spec that can't crack the 80k DPS. They deal 77k DPS on average. The lowest tank after that is 84.1k on Guardian Druids, which is insane. They are missing 7k damage, and this buff will hopefully just put them along with every other tank, putting them at around 85, 84k damage. This is not as crazy as you might think. Warriors have already been doing very, very little DPS, and this buff will, as I said, basically give them the missing 7 to 8k damage. All in all, great patch. Can't really complain. I am not worried about Brewmaster at all. As I said, Brewmasters will probably move away from high tolerance. They will still take the Zen state because it is simply still very good. Brewmaster still on top. If I had to rate them, nothing here would change, honestly. This rating is probably going to be staying like this for a while. The only thing I could see changing is Guardian Druids and Blood DKs basically swapping their places, but other than that, don't really see any problems. I don't really see any changes here. As I said, Brewmaster will probably drop down a little bit, still be S tier, still be the strongest tank. So if you want to be a meta slave, go for Brewmaster. Don't forget to check me out on twitch.tv/Ryan. If I'm not live right now, you can just scroll down into the Twitch description and see when I'm going to be live next. So I'll see you in the next one. Have a great one.